Opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to the wonderful world of wellness with Dr. Andy Mencia. This medical program heard from 7 to 7:30 each Saturday right here on WSBR 740 AM is brought to you by the Adult and Geriatric Center under the medical direction of geriatrician Dr. Andy Mencia.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of...
Okay, well, good morning. Got to get closer. Yeah, you have to. I have to tell you something. I have a lot more energy when I stand. Because sitting,
let's stand.
Anyway, let's stand. Okay.
Come on, Marcos.
Come on. I know.
know.
Just move the mics up. That's right. Oh, that's fantastic. I think it'll work. Try it. Yeah, I think it'll work.
What a big mistake to bring Dr. Regman to the show.
Well, I wasn't prepared for it, especially since he just celebrated his 50th birthday.
50.
Did you say 50th? What'd you say?
Well, that was my wife.
It's
actually not until May 2nd, but so it would be a surprise. She snuck up on me yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, let's have you, Well, first of all, let me introduce...
That's a great celebration. You start from now. It's May 2nd. You start like...
That's how we do it.
That's
the
right.
party just keeps
over
going
and
going.
over. Okay, so here we are with my favorite, Dr. Mencia, and Dr. Mencia always brings people.
And my favorite, Anita.
Yeah, and I never know who he's bringing. I mean, they can be from outer space, but we'll still figure out what to do. So, tell me how you even met Dr. Marcos Redman and what he does.
Well, Dr. Redman, he's a hospice doctor, and he worked with a Catholic hospice. And also Dr. Srin Nara, one of our physicians at the center, he also worked with Dr. Redman. So he had been the bridge that had connected us.
And, you know, hospice is a very interesting organization, which I adore. My mother actually wound up, her last 3 days was a hospice up in Boca Raton, the Hospice by the Sea. I really, and I'm glad you're both doctors, because this has been the fallacy. And you have to, you know, it's not a political discussion, but hospice is so fantastic, and yet there are a lot of doctors that don't, even at the very time when they know they should, and I think it has to do a little bit with getting rid of the fact that they now won't get paid for Medicare, and whatever the reason is, or maybe they don't know, they don't care, but I have to say that anyone that doesn't help their patient go to hospice is really failing them. How do you feel about that, Dr. Redman?
I would tend to agree, though I think the reasons are complicated. We're taught as physicians that death is the enemy. Death means that we failed our patients as physicians, and that's really unfortunate because, as it's often been said, nobody gets out alive. And the choices we make throughout our life determine the quality of our life, and that's never more true than in the final months, weeks, days, and hours of our life. And this can be a time for closure, a time of peace, a wonderful time for our families to come together. But unfortunately, in America, we have forgotten this, I think, and we've become so dependent on high technology, and death has become really a four-letter word that the majority of Americans don't have that kind of death. They die in a hospital.
One of the problems is that people don't understand that dying is part of the living process.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a very good point. I want to just tell you a little something about hospice and why this was what happens to people who are caregivers, as we were for my mother. You know, when someone is very ill and they can't get to a doctor anymore and they're lying in their bed at home, and you don't know what to do. And I finally got so frustrated. I said, I can't manage this. I don't know what to do with my mother anymore. And I literally went to her doctor, who usually doesn't make house calls. Unlike Dr. Mencia, in a very difficult time, he will do that. That's why I adore him. But my doctor, as good as he was, didn't do that. And I said, I'll pay you. Please, come Saturday. You must. And I did. And he came. And within 30 minutes, he said, your mother is so filled with fluid, she must go to hospice. Now, that's the perfect idea of, here, I didn't know what to do. She should have been at hospice. My mother's suffering. She had Alzheimer's. Yeah, she didn't know. She goes to hospice. It was so beautiful, and for 3 days she had a very easy passing. That's what made me love hospice, but it was unfair that the doctor, he didn't know my mother's there, and I can understand that. So what are we going to do about that period where someone's at home and they're being cared for but not cared for properly, not because we didn't love her.
Exactly.
We didn't know.
Exactly. I think one of the unfortunate things is that the benefit, the hospice benefit, and that's what it is, and it's covered by Medicare, it's covered by Medicaid, it's covered by almost all private insurance, is available to patients usually long before they take advantage of it. The thing that I hear the most from families after the passing of their loved one is, doctor, this was probably one of the most positive parts of Mom's, medical experience since she began to get sick 15 years ago. We just wish we had heard about this sooner. We wish we had got her on hospice sooner.
So, Dr. Mencia, now you're the physician and you're the caring physician. I mean, you're unique in that, unfortunately. When you decide that someone just really isn't functioning anymore, how do you explain hospice to them?
As a geriatrician, I did get training into hospice and palliative care. And usually what I tell my patient, I don't wait for my patient to be too advanced. As soon as we know we have a diagnosis that is terminal, I tell my patient, I want hospice to meet you the way you are right now. I don't want them to meet you when you cannot speak, you cannot swallow, you cannot get out of bed. I want them to see you walking around the way you are doing now with whatever malignancy that had gone to the bone. But let's bring hospice in so they see who you are now and get the patient into hospice. Sometimes they are conditioned because we always think of hospice cancer. But there are many conditions like, let's say, cardiomyopathy, an enlarged heart that the person cannot breathe. And it's at the end stage of the disease. And just for the sake of better quality of life, then I will tell my patient, I want you to go into hospice. And they get scared. A lot of times they get so scared, Marcos. And I tell them, hospice is not a death sentence. There are many patients, and Marcos can elaborate on this, there are many patients that go into hospice. Hospice will step in and will bring all the support to you. But if the person starts improving, then they step back out.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is we have
would you repeat that? That's really important.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me put it another way. The patients that are referred to hospice, any hospice, in any given year, 5 to 15% of them, when we come in, we try to get rid of medication that no longer makes sense. We reduce the medication burden. That's one of the things killing older Americans. We put them on the right medications, rational medications, and we provide the best medicine of all, TLC. Our nurses are angels, our aides are angels, and really they're the biggest part of hospice, not the doctors. And we have chaplains, we have social workers. We treat the whole patient, and guess what? When you make life worth living, when you finally get rid of somebody's pain, when you help them with the other aspects of end-of-life care, such as the spiritual problems, the spiritual pain, psychosocial issues, people find that life is worth living. They live longer, not just better, and many of them graduate. 5 to 15% of our patients come off hospice, and we say, sorry, you no longer qualify. We're very happy that you're doing so well. Call us back in a few years when you actually need us.
Oh, that's wonderful words.
And it happens a lot.
I tell you, Anita and I was talking in one of the show what made me go into geriatric medicine. And it was my grandfather who lived to 109. I would take an aspirin just for a headache, would never take any medication, just eat from Mother Earth and get all his vitamin from Mother Earth and nothing from, no chemical in his body. And when I did my rotation or my training through hospice, that's when I learned the importance of polypharmacy. Mm-hmm. Because in this country, we get into this spiral of medication. Yes. One medication give you constipation, then we give you another medication for constipation, give you palpitation, then we give you another medication for the palpitation, make you depressed, exactly. Then we give you another antidepressant. So when the person go into hospice and they start getting off from so many medication, they wake up and they start feeling better.
It's amazing. I think I teach my nurses, before we're going to prescribe one new medicine, Let's look at what they're on already, and let's look at the benefit-risk ratio of every medicine, and let's get rid of anything we can. And it's amazing. The average patient coming to us in a nursing home, in an assisted living facility, to a hospice, there are at least a dozen medications. We're talking routine medications, not even the as-needed medications. And I've seen even worse examples. I've had patients on 30-some different medications. Unbelievable. I mean,
in fact, I was going to send it to you. This is a discussion that Dr. Mencia and I have all the time because he is so good about the medication story. The New York Times had a full-page article on medications 2 weeks ago, and it said just what you said. And this person came into emergency with something, and they gave her this, and they gave her that, and they gave her this, and they gave her that, and before you knew it, she was comatose. She couldn't handle anything. They actually had her on, we're going to put her on life support. I mean, it was horrible, and then someone came in, a doctor, who said, just take her off this, take her off that, and all of a sudden, it's now a month later, and she's walking around, she's happy. She was going to die.
Absolutely, and that is a leading cause of death in the geriatric population. Is medication errors.
Why? Why? Let's just ask you. It's not that the doctors are mean. What is the problem?
I don't know what it is, but it's a lot easier to add a medication than to take it away for most physicians.
That's right. Well, Dr. Redman, Dr. Nara, myself, we are trained in geriatric medicine. We've been dealing with this for many, many years. And when you go to a family doctor or an internist that have no geriatric background, and the patient comes to you, the golden rule, like Dr. Redman just said, is let's see what medication is producing the condition.
Absolutely.
Know what medication I can put on this patient to get rid of the condition.
Exactly.
So if we can have doctors out there getting rid of medication, switching medication around, to make the patient feel better. The other day I had a patient, Marcos, that came to see me, and the patient was very depressed, and the patient was on propanolol. Instead of twice a day, they was giving it to her 4 times a day, and so she will try to take most of her medication by 5 o'clock, because by the evening she was so tired that she wanted just to sleep.
Wow.
And she said, I'm so depressed. And I said, well, have you ever been depressed? She said, never in my life. And it was just that one medication. I said, okay, I'm going to take you off from that medication, give you a different beta blocker that is not so, that you don't have to take so frequently because that affects your quality of life, and that won't have the side effect of making you so fatigued and so depressed. And in a week or two, she was up and about.
Is it because doctors feel a liability if they don't? I mean, I'm not getting into
once
this.
Once again, there's not a simple one answer.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest problems we have in America today is what we call the fragmentation of the delivery of healthcare. So the average patient in South Florida, God's waiting room, is a classic example. Many patients don't have a doctor, a primary doctor. They have a cardiologist, a nephrologist, a pulmonologist.
It's all segmented.
It's all fragmented, segmented, and I think all too often the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. I've had a patient come to the emergency room. In a previous lifetime, I was an emergency room physician. I had this happen several times. And they were on the exact same medication, but they had 3 bottles from 3 doctors, and they all looked different. That 2 of them were generics, 1 was brand name, and they were being overdosed. All the doctors had the same great idea, but the patient didn't get it, and he didn't tell the doctors that I'm already on this medicine, that medicine from this doctor. They just doctor shop.
Okay, so
that's tough too.
We have a lot of wonderful listeners. Let's give some advice to the listeners. Now, I'm just going to tell you one more personal experience. My husband was on some sort of a high blood pressure medicine, and he's been doing very well. And I said, well, can't you go to the doctor and ask him to just lower it if you're doing so well? Mm-hmm. He did, and the doctor lowered it. Now, I'm not a doctor. Why did I have to do it when my husband goes there every 3 months, 4 months? Why didn't he say, gee, Bill, you're really doing well. Let's try to reduce it. Explain that to me, because I don't know.
Once again, medicine today is not what it was. There are a lot of challenges. I was in primary care, and I even worked in a managed care center, a very well-known one when I first came out of residency. The expectation at that time was you would be scheduled between 4 to 6 patients an hour. It's very hard to take a good history, do quality care, and really have time to put it all together when you literally have minutes for each visit.
Okay, so let's put the onus on the patient. Dr. Mencia, what should a patient, whether they're your patient or they're someone else's, what should they be asking themselves and the doctor?
Well, the first thing you need to ask is, if I go in for a given complaint, what are my choices? And are you going to discuss those choices with other providers that are involved with me? Is there going to be communication among you and my other providers, either by mail, by phone, in person? And that's one of the beauties of the geriatric center, that we get verbal communication among the providers. If a new medication comes to you, and sometimes the pharmacy will tell you, well, this medication is going to cost you $700. That's the price of the drug. Well, that's not quite true. Your insurance is going to cover a big chunk of that cost, and your copay might be $15. But sometimes the patient gets scared and say, well, this is an expensive medication. It's going to cost me. It's not costing you that much money. It's costing your insurance that you've been paying all your life. And sometimes the pharmacy or your insurance will try to discourage you from using a good drug so that you can go into a junky drug, a generic medication that was made in some third world country that is being shipped over here for people to use it, and we become consumers of junk drugs. And so anything that's going to go into your body, you have to analyze and you have to question it. Just like when you buy a car, you're buying a pill, and you want the best thing for your body. You don't want to start putting pills that's going to produce more damage than the benefit you and your doctor are looking for.
I think it's important also, and I think too many patients get away from this, you need to have one primary physician, a captain of the ship.
Exactly.
That is basically acting as a coordinator of your care and knows who your specialists are and is getting feedback from those specialists. It's interactive. If you go to the hospital, even the ER, you need to be sure that that primary doctor knows you were there, why you were there, and if any changes were made to your medication, etc. There has to be one central physician. And a lot of patients don't have that. They have a bunch of specialists, and each one focuses on one part of you, but nobody's focusing on the whole person.
Well, that's why we have this radio show, and why every week Dr. Mencia is here, Dr. Andy Mencia, because he has developed what I call a beta site. It's the perfect way to have a doctor, because he shares his knowledge with all his other specialists, and if he doesn't know, he gets the results. I mean, he is a unique individual, and it's so thrilling every Saturday morning for Dr. Andy Mencia to be here. And for those of you who still have not made an appointment, let me give you the phone number to do this. It's 954-489-1345. 954-489-1345. It's called the Adult and Geriatric Medical Center. It's at 1608 East Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale. You don't want to go to Dr. Mencia if you don't want to get well. There are people who like being sick. I mean, I hate to, it's called hypochondriac or whatever it is, but go there only if you want to get better, right? I mean, we know people like that, right?
Absolutely.
But don't complain, go. But also, Dr. Retman, I'm so glad you're here. Explain, if someone wanted to call you, how they would contact you and your organization, please.
Well, we have actually been in South Florida now for well over 23 years. The program was actually started in Dade County, and that's where we have been all of this time. We recently expanded our services into Broward County approximately 4 years ago. But we do have an 800 number, and we have Broward numbers. And
I'll give that, but is it Catholic Hospice?
Well, it is.
Tell me about that.
The original name is Catholic Hospice, and that is the core organization. We are aligned with Catholic Health Services, which is a consortium of different services to the community, and not just to the Catholic community. And one of the other interesting things about us, of all the hospices in South Florida, It's Catholic Hospice that developed a dedicated Jewish hospice program, L'chaim. That's right. And I've been teaching Andy how to say that. L'chaim Hospice, to specifically meet the needs of the Jewish community down in South Florida as well. And last time I checked, we actually have a Jewish medical director.
That is who you are. And this is very interesting that they would do it. It's funny. Years ago, a lot of Jewish people sent their children to Catholic schools.
Well, my mother's an example of that. She grew up in Colombia, South America, and that was the best school in town. And she got a wonderful education, became fluent in French as well as Spanish. And I think in many ways, philosophically, ethically, there's actually a lot of common ground, especially when it comes to the sanctity of life. And the edicts of both religions are very similar as to what should and should not be done to a person, and that, ultimately this life is a gift to us from God, and that is part of it. And for anybody, even an atheist, when they're reaching end of life, the spiritual component is a huge part of closure, the healing process, and everything else. And it is for all of us. And I'm not personally a very devout, but working with people at this critical time of life has certainly been a spiritual awakening for me over and over again. And it's a privilege to be able to help not only the patients, but the families. And that's something else about what hospice services provide, and that's bereavement. And unfortunately, and especially with our older couples, statistically, an older couple, one goes within a year or less, the other one will be gone. And one of the reasons is depression, of course, and complicated bereavement's part of that. And depression's a killer. And
you help, don't you, hospice?
Absolutely.
You have actually, before you help them, but even
after
you stay with it, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We have dedicated bereavement counselors, and that's all they do. And they start working with our families long before their loved one passes. And they continue to work with them a year and a half, even longer if necessary. And we reach out to the community. We have a variety of programs. I know we're getting short on time.
We're okay.
And one of those programs that I wanted to mention especially, and it's kind of bittersweet, is our Camp Hope. And this camp is not just for our patients, families, it's for anybody in the community.
That's a beautiful thing.
This is the last year of our Camp Hope. Camp Hope. This is a program for children that have lost a loved one and are having trouble with bereavement. And these could be the children of veterans. They could be children that have lost a parent, a grandparent, a sibling, a close friend. And it's dedicated just to work with those kids intensely, bring them together with other kids that have that experience, and the healing that occurs there is fantastic. And we're very proud because our camp has now been joined to a national camp, Camp Aaron, and we will soon, beginning next year, have a camp program not only in Dade County, where Camp Hope is about to have its last session, but we're going to soon have a camp also serving Broward, Palm Beach, and Dade County.
That's wonderful. That's something new. I've never heard about that.
There'll be a big announcement on that soon.
Called Camp Aaron?
Absolutely.
This is fabulous. Dr. Mencia, you did it again. This is the funny thing. I never know. He doesn't call me the night before and say, listen, I'm bringing this person. Every single time he comes, it's an enlightenment. Something that's different, that's new, that's brilliant. You just live. I think you attract this. There's something about you. There's an energy about Dr. Mencia. I know there is. That's an energy we have together too. And he just attracts these people. For him to have just met you, and then for you to have been out at a big party last night and to come here, and we appreciate it so much. But we have people who wait for this show, and just think that you've had an opportunity, knowing where your soul is now, and I know where Dr. Mencia is, and my role model is Mother Teresa, so you can imagine what's going on here.
Okay.
So just think, people are sitting there, because they tell me that, maybe they are depressed, but every Saturday morning at 5 o'clock, they know that there's going to be something special, that they know the people, they feel good. It does something to their life for 3 hours. And we appreciate the fact that you took the time to come here this morning. We adore Dr. Mencia for what he does. And we know that you've made a difference this morning, so you can go back. Sleep is not that important. It's what we do. You can sleep. Once they close the box, you'll sleep all the rest of your years.
That's right.
This is an opportunity for everyone to do some good this morning.
Yes.
And I know that you do this.
The secret is in my profession is continuity of care.
Absolutely.
So having Dr. Redman and Dr. Nara in the hospice part of my center, when the patient get to that stage, it's an easy transition, and it's important for the patient to know that there are two types of doctors out there when it comes to hospice. And Catholic hospice, they know me very well. They say, if it's Dr. Mencia patient, don't even ask him if he's coming off the case, because he's not.
Absolutely.
So there are doctors that say, patient went into hospice, I have nothing to do, hospice will handle. Dr. Redman, Dr. Nara will take care of the patient, but they're always consulting with me. What do you think if we do this? So I'm part of the care, so I never abandon the patient. This is just when that step comes, we want to confront that step with dignity and respect for the patient.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I wanted to just say one last thing, if I
okay.
could, and that is one thing I've heard a lot of patients tell me coming into my program is the doctor said there's nothing more they can do.
Always.
That makes me furious, because there's always something more we can do.
To the last breath.
Absolutely. We may not be able to cure everything, but we can always improve the quality of every day you have left. And that's really, I think, the key to good medicine.
Okay, so Dr. Rettman, I'm going to give a phone number for the toll-free number. Is 1-800-533-3933. That's the hospice. If you have questions, you can call and ask for Dr. Rettman.
Y se habla español.
Oh, good. That's what's important now. And of course, Dr. Mencia is the person who we really appreciate. He sponsors this half hour. It's called The Wonderful World of Wellness. And hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you again, Dr. Rettman. And thank you.
My pleasure. That's right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here.
Do you have a loved one in a nursing home in Florida? Do you have one who will soon need nursing care? Many people needlessly spend their life savings to pay for nursing care. With the